The next platform we're going to talk about is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is for professional networking. Think of it as the new business card exchange. You used to go to a meeting and exchange business cards. Now you exchange LinkedIn links and connections. You used to know people at work and then you'd leave work and you'd never see them again. Now you connect to them in LinkedIn and you still know where they are. LinkedIn is business or work related. It's not like the other platforms we've talked about. This is very oriented toward the world of work. LinkedIn is more than a resume. It's your personal brand. There are people who don't like that term. I personally like it. We can talk about that at some point if you want to know my reasons. Connections. LinkedIn connections, they used to say only people that you know. It should be people you know or know something about what they do. It can be people you've worked with, people you've met at a conference or a meeting, people you're in an organization with, like BAP. You can also connect to companies. You can join groups of people with professional interests, and then you can connect to people who are in the group because you have some rough idea of what they do from what they've written. You can also connect to people. You can connect to your next door neighbor or your brother or somebody in your church because you have a rough idea of what they do, and this is how professional networking works. If this is someone that you might say, gee, I'm looking for work, does anybody know anybody who needs something that I do? These are the people you connect to in LinkedIn, and then maybe they can help you and you can help them. Features of LinkedIn, again, like I said, it's your personal brand. It's more than a resume. You give it a title, but that's the title you say for the general sorts of things you do. That's not the job title you currently have from the company you're currently working for. That's your title that you'd give yourself if you owned your work. A professional summary, again, a summary of the kinds of things you do. This is for people to come. You're not looking for a specific job here. This is you. This is your work self. LinkedIn pictures are a professional headshot. No avatars in LinkedIn. No cartoons, no Simpsons, no pictures of your baby or your favorite vacation site or your pet. In fact, this is part of the terms of service of LinkedIn. If they discover that you are using something that's not a professional headshot in their terms of service, they can take that down. This is so that if you want to connect with someone, they remember what you look like from when you handed them your business card a month ago at that conference. You can give your work history in LinkedIn. Whole bunch of stuff like that. There's two things we'll get to in a minute. Endorsements are a tag or a keyword of sorts of things that you do, like MBTI or coaching or writing or something. And then recommendations, as you might guess, are little short paragraphs recommending you from people that you've worked with before, managers, co-workers, whatever. There's also space in your profile for groups, organizations, awards, education, all kinds of things that may or may not have a place in your resume. But LinkedIn, we're not stuck with 2 pages or whatever. We can go on forever. So publications, whatever. Discussion groups in LinkedIn, like in many of these other platforms, you can have a discussion about something that's interesting, but it's not necessarily motorcycle riders or people who like dogs. This tends to be things like content management or MBTI or certain programming languages. There are discussion groups among people who used to work at certain companies, and they call themselves alumni associations of that company. You can make posts of any length. Some people do short status. Some people use LinkedIn for blogging. Again, generally, though, these tend to be work-related, professional-related kind of posts. And you can say that you liked and you were interested in something that somebody posted, and you can comment because social media has all of those. So here's one of the features that people talk about all the time, that some people think this is not a good thing. I like endorsements. Endorsements are little keywords, little tags about things that you do. And the reason that I like them is because I have control over them. Other people say, well, somebody can endorse you for something you didn't do, you don't know. And they can try, but they can't actually put that on your profile without you allowing it. So here's an example. Your connections, Bhaskar, Jennifer, and 2 others have endorsed you for new skills and expertise. I got this the other day. Agile methodologies and management. Wow. Except that I don't work with Agile methodologies. I can give you the 90-second explanation of sort of what it is, but I don't work with it. And I am not a manager. I've never been a manager, and I don't intend to be a manager. So really, these are not skills and expertise I have. But because I never listed these on my profile as things to choose from, these people thought that they could pick them for me. That's very sweet. I get the choice to add them to my profile or skip them. So I'm going to skip them. So what have I lost? They haven't lost anything, I haven't lost anything, and there aren't any endorsements for things I don't do on my profile. If they wanted to endorse me for something I do know about, like technical writing, well, that's something that I've said I do, and they can look at that list and check a little check mark, and one more person said that I can do tech writing, and that's cool. And you get to go in and look at your endorsements and rearrange them and tell people which ones you want at the top of your profile and which ones you want at the bottom and which ones you want to make available for people to pick. I think endorsements are a good thing. The other feature of LinkedIn that some people are not so sure about is a recommendation. That's a comment written by a LinkedIn member to recognize or commend a colleague, business partner, student, boss, subordinate, whatever you want to call it, coach. And other people can see the recommendation. Ooh-ah! So some people say, well, this is bad because all recommendations are good. Well, they are called recommendations, aren't they? They're not called reference checks where somebody might say, well, actually, her work is never on time. So, no, it's a recommendation, and yes, it's going to always be good. Other people say, well, because they're positive, they don't have any content. I think most people are smart enough to be able to notice whether a recommendation just says, I liked working with this person and I would work with them again, to be a content-free one, or something that actually talks about what they really did and what you liked and what you didn't like and whatever, and make it a reasonable recommendation. And again, like endorsements, you have the choice. You can put these on your profile, or you can delete them, you can accept them when you get them, or you can refuse them. You can actually write back to the person and say, thank you for recommending me that way, but I didn't do those things. Could you rewrite your recommendation? Now, one of the other things about recommendations that's kind of weird in LinkedIn land is that you can ask for a recommendation. In fact, there's a button on your profile that says, ask for a recommendation. And I'm kind of two minds about that. I have occasionally asked for a recommendation from someone who knows my work well in an area that doesn't show any recommendations at the moment. But I feel a little odd about that. I ask for recommendations from managers. Sometimes they give them, sometimes they don't. When you're leaving a company, it's nice sometimes to ask for a recommendation. It's not really a letter of reference, but you can ask. If they don't give it to you, they don't give it to you. When you make a recommendation to someone, it always comes with a little note that says, oh, you made a recommendation to them, they should make a recommendation to you, or there's this sort of reciprocal thing. You don't have to be reciprocal. If you get a note that says Bob recommended you, you don't have to recommend Bob back. If you want to, fine, that's a nice reminder, but it's not a requirement. Again, this is something you control. You can give them, you can receive them. My personal recommendation, as it were, is to be honest and authentic and true, and then, life is so much better that way. Let's see. LinkedIn has businesses and groups. There were business pages in Facebook and Twitter, but those were also brands and things like that. A band, a restaurant, your local farmer's market. Businesses in LinkedIn are actual businesses with employees, maybe a startup, maybe a nonprofit, but they're businesses the way you think of businesses, because the whole idea of LinkedIn is to hire people and to work with people and to work for people, and so that's what's going on with business pages. And you can follow a company. A lot of times companies now are posting job recs in their business pages. There are groups, and those are professional interests most of the time. I talked about that a little bit before. And like many of these social media things, you've got to have a LinkedIn account before you can create or participate in a group. If it's got a public discussion, you can read it without an account, but you can't really participate. So here's an example of a LinkedIn personal page. This is mine, and you can customize your public profile URL when you create your public profile. I recommend customizing the URL because it's isn't it much nicer to have something like linkedin.com/in/VLBrown? If you don't customize it, you get linkedin.com/profile/view question ID equal and then some string of numbers. Nobody's going to remember that. They're not going to be able to look it up, and it's going to look a little funny on your business card. And people put their LinkedIn URLs on their business cards. They put their LinkedIn URLs on their resumes. I got laid off a while back, and when I did, one of the pieces of the severance was to have 3 months with one of the job companies in San Francisco that does coaching and helps people find new jobs and learn how to work on their resume. And they strongly recommend, if you've got a resume, put your LinkedIn link on your resume. It's not required. It's just becoming more and more and more something that lots of people do to have a LinkedIn profile. So here's mine. I'm very happy to have anybody in BAP ask to connect to me in LinkedIn. I will gladly connect back to you, anybody in BAP. Here's our LinkedIn BAP group. We're not a very visible group and we don't have a lot of discussion. You'll notice here's some members and you might recognize their faces. You can click here and go and visit the BAP group, and you can join it once you become a member of LinkedIn. Most of the conversation has a tendency not to happen in this group, although it would be nice if more did. We could talk about our programs, for example, and we could talk about them here and we could discuss them, and that could be fun, right? But whatever. Let's see, shared interests. A lot of the discussion in LinkedIn happens to happen in things like there are a lot of Myers-Briggs professionals groups for people who are certified practitioners. There are a lot of psychological type groups for people who work with that kind of thing. Join LinkedIn, have your shared interests, go talk to people, have conversations. So, sign up for LinkedIn.